In this country, it's predominantly these days, gundog, in my estimation at least, means it's someone that retrieves fallen game. Generally, it's, when you refer to gundogs, it's probably birds over here. Pheasants, pigeons, partridge, organised shoots, whether it's, ducks as well, I suppose, for water dogs.
Yeah, I mean, the history of working gundogs goes way back, predating certainly the use of firearms in hunting. And at a time when firearms were either non-existent or in the early stages of their development, dogs were used as a means of either catching or bringing game to bay. By that, it means that the animal would be hunted, and would hunted to a point where it would be accessible for somebody to kill it, either with a bow and arrow or a spear, long before we had firearms. The other aspect, which has very much died out in this country, and one that particularly interests me nowadays, are the breeds which were selected for hunting by virtue of their ability to locate and point birds or game on the ground.
That is fascinating, because one thing I noticed about them is they don't seem to need much training, those dogs. They seem to do that in their DNA as such.
Yeah, and you've hit a very relevant point. I mean, the inherited characteristics of dogs very often lies latent in a lot of breeds. Yeah. And then comes out. Sometimes, people see behaviours in their dogs and maybe they don't quite understand why the dog's doing something. And pointing is one of those characteristics. And the reality is, you don't train a pointing dog to point. You provide it with an environment in which it can find birds by air scent, and the dog will point. And it means that it just freezes and indicates by its body and head position where the game is. By that I mean birds on the ground like partridges, pheasants, grouse. What originally they were used for was to be locate birds which would then be caught by nets.
Yeah.
And two or more people would drag a net over the pointing dog, over the top of it, and the net would then be dropped onto the birds that were lying in the grass or in the cover where the birds were hiding. And it's where the expression to set a dog, the setters, the English setters and the Gordon setters, will even now typically lie down when they indicate a bird. Their body position will drop really low, because that was a preferred position, obviously, when you were dragging the net over the dog to get to the bird.
They lift the front leg, don't they? They lift one.
Yes, some do. A lot of pointers dogs. The presence of the scent will transfix a dog into holding that point, and the point is the dog that is pointing. It's a bit like a cat in as much as it's the final act before it would jump and catch the prey.
Yeah, sure. We should get a picture, George, on the screen of a pointing dog in case people see, but not quite here in the edit later. Have a look.
Yeah. And when you see a dog doing it, like many of the things we've chosen dogs for as working dogs, only dogs can do it. We haven't come up with a mechanical or any form of method of doing these things that dogs can't beat. And that comes to lots of things, and maybe I'll touch on it later on in terms of scent detection and all sorts of things.
That's probably coming up in police work, I was going to say.